What is up there, everyone? It's the guy with no gamertag here, and quite a rare thing on my channel. In the background you've actually got some Modern Warfare 2 gameplay. I'm not sure exactly what the gameplay is as I'm recording this commentary, but it's going to be one of a string of gameplays I got when I actually decided to jump back on the game a couple of weeks ago. And I can tell you right now, I had so much fun. I mean, I'd been holding back on playing these older games because I wanted to remember the good times, because I remember I would jump, occasional times I had jumped on MW2 and I hadn't had a great time. Or I'd go back and I just didn't want to hate the games, because I really do remember how much I did enjoy Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, COD 4. I just didn't want to go back to them because I didn't want to end on a bad note, if you know what I mean. I just didn't want to end up hating the game and remembering everything bad about it. I wanted to remember all the good stuff, the amazing times, the amazing scores, and I decided to go back to it, and oh, it was unbelievable. I couldn't remember how good this game actually was when it just went your way. It is possibly one of the most rewarding games ever, and you can see exactly why Call of Duty has been so successful. It is so much fun when the tables are in your favour, and of course you can understand why other people still play these games, because when tables turn in their favour, it's fun. And even when the tables are still against you, it's still quite fun, because it's, for whatever reason, these older games, getting a kill still feels rewarding, whereas in the newer games it just has sort of lost the novelty. I'm not sure exactly why that is. It's kind of an odd thing, because nothing has really changed dramatically about the code of the game and how the game plays, apart from Advanced Warfare, which is a complete anomaly we're going to ignore for the purposes of this video. But it just seems to have lost the reward of getting a kill, and I'm not even sure why, because admittedly, even back in the day, you could find some cheap ways of getting kills. And I'm not going to lie, it's funny, the funny argument actually is towards the new games, is that people say that they don't want to sweat every game. Now actually, I do understand that. I don't want to have to feel like I'm having to play like an MLG every single game. However, one thing I did notice was that I was still sweating my nuts off playing these older games. The sweat wasn't turned off, and that was possibly why I was getting these scores. And I think it's kind of a funny thing that it's like we don't want to sweat on the new game because we aren't doing as well as we'd like to. Whereas we're fine to sweat on an old game because we can then go absolutely to town. Although admittedly I do understand that people don't want to sweat to the same level they do have to in current games, because you do have to play ultra hard to be able to actually seem to do well or get a really good score or just an entertaining gameplay in general. And the game has just sort of lost some of the reward factor, which is kind of sad. And I'm going to say, the kill streaks in this game, I just basically forgot how good this game was. The kill streaks are absolutely nuts. I mean, the pave low, I always overlooked this thing. I was always going either like Pred, Harrier, Chopper Gunner, but then I only realised once I earned it that I had the pave low on this class. And this thing absolutely destroys people. I mean, the ridiculous amount of kills I was getting was just insane. I mean, I was dropping like 40 pluses. I even got a 50 kill game in Team Deathmatch, which I thought was absolutely insane. I'm not going to lie, the enemies I was playing against were not great. They really weren't particularly high ranked or particularly skilled players. But it was still quite insane that I could get this many kills in a game, and the kill streaks went absolutely to town. And I'm not going to lie, I have been someone who said I'm not too bothered about bad kill streaks in the current games, because I don't like how in objective modes like Domination, someone can camp for a chem strike and it'll twist the game in their favour because they just camped for it. And I don't like that someone can play so cheaply and then they can win the game because they played cheaply. Whereas for some reason, in Modern Warfare 2, there's sort of, the kill streaks are just absolutely insane, and I'm not bothered about being against them. I don't know why. There's something where you can take going up against a chopper gun or an AC-130 or a pave low. You can just take it, whereas in a new game, Advanced Warfare, if you get put up against a paladin, yeah, it's a piece of crap most of the time, but you don't want to play against it, which is something quite unusual. I just really don't understand some of the mentality of players, including myself. It just doesn't quite make sense to me. However, I feel the Modern Warfare 2 kill streaks, if the kill streaks in Advanced Warfare were as powerful as Modern Warfare 2, the system would, in my eyes, probably be one of the best systems ever. Because then you would have the risk-reward factor. If you wanted to go for these insane kill streaks, which did mega work, you would have to sacrifice your perks, your attachments, a secondary weapon, stuff like that. Which I think would be amazing amazing compromise is a bit of an oxymoron there. But what I mean is that you would have a risk-reward factor that would pay off if you could get the reward. But if you didn't get the reward, you, of course, wouldn't do as well as you may want to. Now, the only thing I did notice that when I was playing was something that I always think Ghosts never got credit for, and that was for actually the movement, because the movement in, like, when I played Modern Warfare 2, it was good, it was nice, it was fairly fluid, and it did flow quite well. However, the movement in Ghosts, I just preferred it because everything, all the transitions were so smooth when you were sprinting to then when you were aiming down sight. If you just watch the way your character holds the weapon and how he or she handles the weapon, you can see actually how smooth it is. And I found that in Modern Warfare 2 it seemed a bit almost like switchy. It was like on off, like aiming hipfire, and it just seemed to be a bit jerky and jolty, and that sort of niggled at me. It's like, it's not unplayable by any means. It's still smooth enough to where I can play and do well as you're seeing in the gameplay in the background, but it just didn't quite feel as refined as it does. And I think this is one of the reasons, along with graphics, because I did a sniping game and I actually had to move closer to my enemies because I simply couldn't see them down the scopes. I actually couldn't tell a lot of the time if I was looking at an enemy or I was just looking at a rock, because the graphical difference between next gen and old gen is just absolutely insane. But anyway guys, I've had a lot of fun. I may be going back to older games a bit more because I've realised that even though I don't want to leave a game on a bad note, there's still not too late to have a good time on it. I will probably go back to stuff like Modern Warfare 3. That is, I think, my most played game ever. I have quite an ashaming amount of hours on that game, 100 plus hours, but I still do want to play the game. I mean, I just watched a Moab gameplay from a guy called Spawnstar, and it just reminded me of the good old days of going back and playing, and you just go to town and have a load of fun when kills were actually rewarding in the game. But anyway guys, I do hope you've enjoyed. This has been the guy with no game attack, and I will see you on another video.